Hey, what is up, guys? And welcome back to another Magic the Gathering online league. We're back with Eldrazi Tron on the draw for game one. First hand was pretty meh. Second hand's not much better here. One more look at it again. Okay, we can make this work. I will keep. We pitch Ugin. So we go turn one. And then we have to consider our turn two. I guess the question is, do we want Fleshraker or Tezzeret? At a glance, I'm thinking Fleshraker, but Tezzeret might be correct to ramp to try and get into this Ugin, or just to find some potential outs. Let's spin the Fleshrake, and done, and pass. Let's see what we're playing against. The nice thing about Page Loose Leaf and Tezzeret is we do have a blocker for Tezzeret in the way of Page, which is nice. Hallowed Fountain, Shock 17. Guide of Souls, okay. Interesting. Well, there's Map. So this is one of the few instances where the downside of Page being a creature with summoning sickness does mean we can't sequence Lab, Imprint, Page, Map, where with Mindstone we could. Not sure how big of a difference that is, but it is something to consider. We'll pass. So next turn would make sense to play Tezzeret, then Map. So we can block. Yeah, I mean, there's a good example where, like, Page might save you some number of life. So let's start with Tezzeret. I will then tap Page to play the Map. I guess I could tap Page, untap Page with Tezzeret, then play Map. Probably is the right move. So let's untap the Page now. Play the Map. Map triggers Tezzeret. And... oh, okay, so, real talk. I completely forgot an important piece of text on Tezzeret. I forgot that Tezzeret, when you untap an artifact or a creature, if it's an artifact creature, you put a +1/+1 counter. Oh, that makes Tezzeret and Page so much better. Oh, that's so good, actually. Okay, hold up. Like, before I was like, okay, this is cool. And now I'm like, oh, this is very cool. Fascinating. But it's paying cost for Felia. Well, that's an issue, because Felia can flicker the Page, and there's not much we can do about that. We'll pass. So Tezzeret's going to take some beats. Most likely. Oh, that's interesting, though. Starfield Shepherd, warping. Trigger. We grab a plains or a creature. Ocelot Pride land. So this does mean Tezzeret is likely down. And so, obviously, Page plus Tezzeret looks a whole lot worse right now because Felia is able to flicker the Page. That is pretty unfortunate, admittedly. So they can float the guide, they can then Felia flicker target Page. Alternatively, they could flicker the Starfield, but I think getting rid of the Tezzeret makes sense here. Interesting. They opt not to get rid of the Tezzeret. I mean, we block the Felia then. Tezzeret to 2. Alright. But the page getting counters does feel bad with this Felia on board. A second Ugin. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One short Ugin, unfortunately. I mean, there's a thought to cracking the map here. Like, no matter what, we can't do much of Tezzeret. Tezzeret's doing its best right now. We could untap Page. And untap Page, right? Get another counter on it. Likely will get removed with Felia, which feels pretty bad. We could crack map at this point, but there's some thought to not doing so. There is some thought to not. So let's start with tap on tap. I think I will crack the map. We'll crack the map. So Page gets another counter. We'll grab the power plant. Play the power plant. At this point, we're going to pass. Tezzeret is 1000% down. And we'll pass. So yeah, likely the counters on Page will just get removed, a la Felia. Tezzeret's down for sure. Between Guide and Starfield, it's a definite, right? See, this is where, unironically, drawing into a Page. So we actually have two All Is Dust and 4K commands. Those are the only cards that Page's Grandeur can actually hit. So if we were to find a Page, right, we can imprint Ugin under Lab, and then All Is Dust. So Grandeur into All Is Dust would not be bad here, actually. Pain cost. Witch Blast. Witch Blast does hit Loose Leaf. So Loose Leaf is down, so no longer have the Grandeur line that we wanted. I mean, the mulligan then to 5 was a bit rough. Our draws have not been all too great. Maybe there's a world where on 1 with Tezzeret we should have zeroed it. Or not zeroed. -3 Tezzeret to grab another map. By grabbing a second map, we could have gotten to Tron probably next turn. Maybe that would have been the better play rather than untapping the Page at the time. We're not necessarily out yet, but we're not in a good position either. We'll draw. Well, that's so unfortunate that we saw, like, we actually did kind of talk about that line. If we did find the second Page, we would have had 7, 2 Page, 2 Grandeur into a potential All Is Dust. Unfortunately, not the case here. We'll concede. I do think maybe minusing Tezzeret for another map would have been right. Let's see what we would have found. We would have found the K command, not the All Is Dust that we needed, so give and take there. Alright, this is a weird Blink Energy hybrid. Let's see then. So, Blink Energy hybrid, Pith Needle out. Since there's no Red Splash, no Flage to worry about, so Soul Guide out, Gemstone out, Bauble still semi-relevant, Chalice still semi-relevant. We could consider... what cards? Dismember makes sense. Maybe even Ballista. Ballista could also make some sense here. Trinisphere on the play could make sense. Yeah, we'll bring in Trinisphere, I think. On the play can be kind of hard for them to deal with reasonably. let's run it back like this. But yeah, so we did see one of the benefits of Page when paired with Tezzeret. We saw one of the downsides of Page when paired with Expedition Map. So that was some interesting dichotomy we saw there throughout that match. Had opponent not interacted with the Page, there was a real chance that we would have been able to All-Dust clear the board off that Grandeur draw. But we would have seen the K command regardless, so moot point. I do question if, like I said, instead of 0 on Page, the turn that Tezzeret came down, maybe minusing for the second map would have made more sense. Obviously, I was hoping that we were going to draw into better cards, and we very much did not. So, give and take there. Regardless, we'll be on the play for game 2. Temple, Power Plant. I mean, 8 hits for Tron on 3. So, I mean, that is fine. The problem is that if we don't find anything, these cards are just dead in hand right now. 7 hits, 1 draw. We'll mulligan, I think. TKS, Power Plant maps. We're kind of back to the same thing, but now we need a land. I mean, we have how many lands in here? 21? 20? So 20 hits off the top, but if we don't find it, we do nothing. Mulligan one more time. This hand is workable. We'll keep pitch, done. Reveal, trigger. And what do we find? Well, there is the mine. There's the tower. There's Karn Dismember. I'm inclined to go for tower here. Yes, I think that makes the most sense. So let's go tower, land, imprint, map, pass, flooded strand, fetch 19, hollowed fountain shock 17 for Guide of Souls. We'll draw. There's the tower. We'll play Tezzeret. And I suppose I will search, question mark. Yeah, we'll search, grab map. So grab second map and pass. This way we can line up Tron on 4, I believe. There's High Noon. Can't cast more than one spell each turn. Honestly, not really an issue. Oh, well, there's the power plant. We don't need to show our opponent power plant. So I'm just going to play the map, crack the map, play the mine, and pass. We'll pass at this point. I mean, next turn we can play Devour, hit the Guide of Souls. Guide will connect, down to 19. End step draw. Chalice of the Void is interesting. Benefit of Chalice would be we can go not K command. Chalice X equals 1. That way we could stop, let's say, Consign, but not really because they can replicate around it. So I'm just going to return Devour to start. And we will devour target guide, yield all. Do you have a consign? We'll pass in full, as we have nothing else to do this turn. Paying cost for Aven Interrupter? What is this? Cast Aang Swift Savior. Fascinating. So saves the guide. We'll pass. Well, now I just need to draw into threats here. Like, we have the mana. We just need the castables. Paying cost for... Yes, High Noon's kind of weird. There's the guide. So that's their card for turn, or spell for turn. Attacking with the Aang. Yep, we'll take the 2 down to 17. We'll draw. Tower. Let's start by going to combat. We'll attack with Devour. Connect down to 8. We will Chalice for X equals 1. Play the tower and pass. And hold. I mean, right now we win the race. So they can't just swing all out at this point. Hallowed Fountain Shock. Lethal's now on board, but this is potential Solitude mana, maybe? Quantum Riddler. Okay. So they will draw 1. Up to 7. Lethal's no longer on board. No attacks. We'll draw. Dismember. Okay, so we can use that to our advantage. We can go to combat. And attack with Devour. So now they'll double block. Yep, perfect. We'll dismember the Quantum Riddler. Go to damage. Both are out. No land needs to be played. And we'll hold. Chalice, and that's their 1 spell for turn. Unless you can sign the Chalice trigger. Opponent goes, I'm an idiot. No, you're not, opponent. It's an easy thing to forget. The High Noon, though, I do question. I do question the High Noon. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Like, maybe they just didn't have many good sideboard cards, and they had some fluff in the main, and decided the High Noon was better than the fluff. Maybe. That's a consideration, right? What are we thinking, opponent? Going to combat, no attacks, we'll draw, TKS. Let's start by attacking. Down to 1. Second main TKS. Paying cost. There is Subtlety. Subtlety will enter. Do we want TKS though on top? See, on one hand, no. On the other hand, TKS is a guaranteed body. So I'll say yes. We'll pass. And hold. I guess realistically speaking, there's not really an instance where we're going to be playing or cracking the map right now. Because even if they do crack a land, we don't need to search unless it's a force search. And then we can just crack map on our turn. There's Quantum Riddler. Okay. Guide trigger up to 3. Attack for 3. Can pump it to 6. That does start presenting a clock, actually. Yeah, so that is a problem that TKS does not solve. Actually, 5. So we get on to 8, but that means that Lethal's on board. And they can block the guide. So we're going to have to shuffle away the TKS. Shuffle away the TKS. I'll grab another tower. And we'll draw. Finding the second tower is not the answer, unfortunately. We can see if a opponent makes a mistake here, but I am not thinking that is likely. We'll attack. There's Solitude. Solitude enters. I mean, we go up now to 14, which means we're no longer dead on board. 9, 10, even with a +2 would be 12. So I'll play the tower that they know we have, and we'll pass. And pass. So we have another shot. Yep, the Felia doesn't do it. Because again, 9, 10, 12, down to 2. So we have potential outs. Good attack all in. They are. Makes sense. Guide doing guide things. Down the 2. Last draw here. And we flooded out. Alright. Let's go next. Well, with that being said, we'll be back for match number 2. Alright, we're back for match number 2 on the draw for game 1. I mean, this is a traditional, just good Tron hand. Turn 1, mine. Turn 2, power plant. Turn 3, lab. Ugin, win, right? So if they don't have any way to pressure us in 3 turns or stop this Ugin, we should be in a good spot. Do you have a Thoughtseize? You do. So that does mean that they should take the map, most likely. So we're going to line up a Flesh Raker on 2 instead, which is fine. Flesh Raker into TKS is reasonable, right? Power Plant, we'll play the Mine. We're not going to play the Temple first because there's still a chance that we find tower off the top. Alternatively, we could also play temple first with the potential of finding another soul land for TKS on 2, right? But I'm not too pressed to play TKS on 2. But opponent scoops it up on their turn too. I wonder if they just didn't find a land and saw our curve and packed it up. That's a bit of a weird one. I didn't get much information on what I'm playing against outside of Thoughtseize and Dimir colors. My first inclination... I'm trying to think if Wan Shi Tong runs Thoughtseize main. My first inclination is Goryo's, maybe? So with that in mind, let's bring in the Grafters, keep the Soul Guide. Drop probably Chalice. Keep the Needle named Frog, I suppose. If that's the case, though, then we also might want Flute. Maybe drop an All's Dust for Flute if I'm assuming that it could be Goryo's. Yeah, we could do that. I guess we also could drop a Swamp for the second Flute since we don't need the Swamp into Goryo's, if that's what we're assuming. Now, mind you, we get absolutely blown out if this is Wan Shi Tong. So maybe we do keep the Swamp and just not bring in the second Flute. Let's do that, just kind of hedge our bets. Because we are kind of flying blind here, even into game 2. I mean, if I had a Soul Land here, I would be tempted, but there's nothing. We'll mulligan. Tower, Tower, Temple, Flesh Raker. I mean, it's a Vexing Bauble on 1. We can keep, drop a Karn and done, and pass. So we can Bobble on 1. So this Wan Shi Tong stops Subtlety 4. So if it's Goryo, stops Solitude, right? Ephem Rebound. End step and draw. Page Loose Leaf, okay. We will play the Tower, play the Vexing Bauble, and we'll pass. Polluted Delta, fetch 19. Undercity Sewer Surveil. Still not giving us a lot of information here. Okay, so we were right to think Graveyard, because that is a persist. So this could be Reanimator. Yep, looks like Grixis Reanimator then. That is a frog. Okay. We'll draw. Second Temple. So we could do one of two things here now. We could go Page Loose Leaf, which would allow us to play Karn next turn. That is my initial thought here. I'm going to cast the Page and pass. Because then we can go Karn for Tormod's Crypt and keep Crypt up. Well, there's the Archon. Given that they pitched the Archon, chances are they have the Persist. But let's wait and see. There's the Persist. There's the Archon. Page down. I'm not thinking there are many ways out from this position. I'd say ditch the Swamp. And we can probably cut that in going into game 3. Down to 15, they draw. And draw, devour. The thing is, like, playing the Flesh Raker here is pretty pointless. Though I guess we could crack the Vexing Bauble. Let's start by cracking the Vexing Bauble. TKS. The problem with TKS as well is that We give them a free card. We take a card, but give them a card, so it's neutral. Yeah, there's no point in playing any of my creatures right now. The best case scenario here might very well be that we draw into another temple to then devour the Archon. But that might be a little bit too late. They're representing 12 damage here. Actually, they're representing lethal because Archon represents 8, and they can pitch all to Frog. But looks like they're refraining from doing that. I'll pitch the TKS. Again, not really doing much here. We're down to 5, which again does mean even if we are able to find Temple into Devour, we cannot really survive another turn. The Oculus kind of demonstrates the same. So Oculus will resolve. Let's just see what our draw is, but we're likely scooping here. Looting, Lab, close, but no. That would be 5 mana. Karn, can't really do anything there. We'll concede. Yep, makes sense. Once I saw the Archon, I was like, yeah. So, Flute makes sense, Needle makes sense, Grafdigger, Soul Guide, Vexing Bubble, no, Gemstone, Swamp, both out, Flute in, we can probably bring back Dust, and maybe even Chalice. Because keeping Tormod's Crypton aside makes sense. We can go Chalice 1 for Unearth, we can go Chalice 2 for Persist. That would make sense. We could bring in Dismember. That is a consideration. That's one thing I will say about Page Loose Leaf. It does strain your deck, or like it constrains what you can do with the deck more accurately. I mean, I'll keep this. We don't need to play the Cage on 1. So we'll go draw, map, pass. We can play the Cage on 2. Though I guess it does put Cage at risk of consign, right? Steam Vent Shock, 18, looting. Okay. Pitches Archon Persist. Nice thing about not revealing Cage at start, though, is the fact now that we can go Needle, name Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog. And then Tower for Cage and pass. So unless they have a Force, which they don't appear to, this means that we should be insulated for at least a turn. Worst case scenario here would probably be like a Meltdown, which they might play on the side. Thoughtseize sees a map, sure. And draw Soul Guide Lantern. I mean, at this point, we will crack the map for a mine, play the mine, casting Soul Guide Lantern. Soul Guide Lantern, target the Archon. So now, even if they have a fetch, they are short mana for a hardcast Oculus. We'll hold in case it's relevant. Red, Emperor Bones. Not pressed about that right now. So the Soul Guide definitely helps out a lot here for us. Taking the map is pretty neutral, all things considered, especially because we are able to grab back Map of Karn if we really wanted. Not that I think we're going to want to. The biggest thing about exiling artifacts in this matchup is just that Karn can grab them back. We'll draw, though. Loose Leaf. I mean, Loose Leaf is a blocker if nothing else. They know about the tower, so we'll play it. We'll play the Loose Leaf. And we'll pass. And hold. I mean, now if we do find another Loose Leaf off top, we can pitch it to try and find K command. We can pitch it to try and find Allah's Dust, what have you, right? We'll take the 2 down to 18. I don't want to crack this Soul Guide Lantern right now, given the Emperor Bones on board. We'll draw. There's Tezzeret. I will cast Tezzeret. So we can do a few things here. I can Tezzeret minus, I think the last one we have, our last hate piece would be Chalice. So we could Chalice for, let's say, 2, and that would stop Persist. That would stop Frog, any future Emperor Bones. That seems appealing to me. So we're going to minus. Grab Chalice. Cast Chalice for 2. Trigger Tezzeret. And I believe they know about the labs and the reason to hide it. We'll pass in full. Yeah, so this means no Frog, no Bones, no Persist. Opponent casting what for 2? Or not? Polluted Delta fetch down to 12. Okay. Surveil. Okay. Frog TR because it's dead to Chalice. Makes sense. Black, red. Cycle. The Unearth. That's currently dead to Cage. Makes sense. We'll draw. Looting is fine. Discards Frog Persist, which were dead to Chalice. And I suppose Emperor Bones could pick up Frog to try and get around the Chalice. I'm actually inclined to maybe crack the Soul Guide. And at this point, we'll pass. Imagine you'll attack the Tezzeret. Yep, we'll let that through. And draw. Well, there's a good example where if Loose Leaf was a Mind Stone, it would be a 3-mana draw one. Where in this case, we can actually Grandeur, discard Loose Leaf, and find K command. Pretty good. So the question is if we want to play the K command now or wait till their turn. I'm thinking I want to wait till their turn in the instance that they have a consign in hand. That way we can at least tax them one on upkeep. So that's my thought here. Yeah, so if it's just a draw 1, we would have found what? Power plant? Yeah, it looks like we would have found a power plant if it was just a draw one. We're going to cast Ramp and Scry Draw. We're going to ignore the Emperor Bones. I guess we could wait. Like, giving them a draw means another bite at the apple of Consign, but I think we do wait just to see if we need to interact, I suppose. Emperor can eat Page. And again, this example where theoretically speaking, we could grab back Page with Karn, and from there would be able to, dig for an All's Dust or K command. End step, run a K command, Ramp and Scry Draw. We should play around Spell Pierce. So keep up 2 mana, X equals 8. Because Spell Pierce is played in Reanimator. Yes. You have a second Spell Pierce? Oof. Oh, you have a Consign. Weird. Why not just play the Consign? Alright, well, we'll draw. Flesh Raker, we'll cast the Flesh Raker, and we'll pass. No attacks. And we'll pass. Otherworldly Gaze. Sure. They must have just drawn into that, otherwise they would have cast it prior to draw. Frogs to Yard. Bones can grab Frog. Yep. Do you want to adapt to try and draw a card? You want to attack? That's fine. We'll take 2 down to 14. Land. Tapped. And draw. There's Karn. Karn, Trigger Flash. Trigger Flash. Karn enters. Karn minus. Yes. Again, we could grab Page Loose Leaf. We can also cast Leveler. A Leveler seems like a fantastic option. So I think we're going to go Leveler. I guess we actually don't need to sack that. We can tap Page, Level, and triggers. Yield all. Combat, swing for 2. Down to 7. On Earth Cycle, I mean, at this point, unless they're able to both destroy the Leveler and exile it from Yard, I don't know if there's too much they can do. This is an Oculus, sure. And that's an Ock. End step. Trigger. And draw. I mean, that's a Sire. I mean, at this point, Bone scoops it up. We'll take the win. Yep, sounds good. All right. We'll be back for match number 3. All right, and we're back for match 3 on the play for game 1. This hand's gas. Holy hell, actually. This hand is very nice. So we actually have a lot that we can do here. We're going to reveal Devour. That's going to help us inform our decisions of our how we play our turn 1. So second page, map Fleshraker. I mean, second map does get us to Tron. So, I mean, we can go Lab Imprint 0, because we're assuming our opponent's on Affinity. We could go second Fleshraker, and that's honestly not a bad idea either. Honestly, I think that might be correct. Let's go Fleshrake. So Lab, Imprint, Cast Page, Chalice 0, and Pass. Because now this allows us to play Flesh into map and to ramp and hit them. Opponent's paying cost for Emissary. It is a 3/3. And we're going to be making some drones. Warp. We draw. Land. Fleshrake. Opponent is thinking. I mean, they can't rebuke this, so unless they somehow just have like a pocket Solitude, we should be good. Because now we can start hitting them with non-combat damage and pass. We'll pass. Spire Bluff. Emery. Mills. Kappa Ravenger. Both are issues. Drones. Attack. Down to 18. We draw. Woohoo! All's dust. Well, that's pretty good. So we are going to start then with Lab Crack Map for Temple. Opponent is thinking. Grab Temple, play Temple, Fleshraker number 2. Let's go to combat. Swing a Fleshrake and pass. Yeah, this is definitely a good example where Chalice seems a whole lot better main in an open deck list format. Knowing that I know that Arcbound Poppy plays Affinity pretty much exclusively helped inform my decision making. If I was going in blind, it would look a lot different. How do we want to do this, friend? Blue. Emissary from Exile. Making dudes. And attacking for 2. We'll draw. Unless they want to tap Emery for another card, maybe? They might want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One short Devour. Yep. Makes another drone. We'll draw. Ooh, Tezzeret. Well, that does make things interesting. And the reason why, to me, this immediately makes it interesting is because we could Tezzeret for Pithing Needle to deal with the Saga. And Saga is an issue here. So Tezzeret Needle name Saga. That way they can't make constructs, right? That would be the thought. Okay. That is a consideration. The alternative, of course, is to All is Dust. But I think we might be able to wait another turn on the Dust. Because they might be inclined to play Kappa. So let's go Tezzeret. Triggers. Four, 6, 7. Actually, we can do all of the above. Minus Tez. Pithy Needle. Pithy Needle. Triggers. And I think we might just be able to win, actually. Name Saga. Trigger Tez. And this should be GG's. Dust. Combat. Sacked one too many spawns, but moot point because the drones can't block. And we got there. Alright. So Vexing Bauble stays, Pithy Needle stays, Soul Guide maybe, Chalice yes for sure. All is Dust is nice. We can drop the Swamp. We don't need that. So we have room for at least one card. We could bring in EE. EE is a consideration here, as is Dismember. I'm thinking EE might be nice. That way we can clear the drones, theoretically, though we do need to be mindful of the munition tokens. Dismember is also a consideration. I'm tempted to drop some number of Ugin for a Dismember. We can go down to 9, keep a Dismember. I think that's reasonable. Maybe run it back like this. So we have Bobble on 1, but we don't have much else going for us. And the problem with Bobble on 1 on the draw is that it is a whole lot worse on the draw than it is on the play. This hand doesn't really do much else outside of that, so I think I will mulligan, despite me having the Bobble. Okay, this becomes interesting. We have the turn 1 Loose Leaf. We have the Gemstone. What do we want to pitch, though? We could pitch Dust. Dust is an arguable imprint instead. We could also pitch it then Gemstone, but Gemstone actually doesn't really accelerate me too much, though I guess actually no. It does accelerate me into a turn 2 Karn off the top or TKS off the top. Sure, we'll keep, which means I will pitch... I'll pitch the Dust. Reveal, reveal. Exile the lab, and pass. I guess I could have kept Dust, Devour, pitched lab, and exile, Devour 2 Gemstone. That may have been the right call, actually. Devour trigger. There's Bobble Flesh. So we could Flesh on 1. Now, opponent is representing Rebuke is the only problem, right? I think we will grab the Vexing Bauble and lab, imprint, cast page, paying cost, consign, cast baubles. So I'm glad we went page first to bait out interaction and it worked out in our favor. And glad we also did not go with the Flesh Raker. We'll draw. 'Tis a mine. Not really what we want to be seeing right now, but we'll play it and pass. And hold, off chance it's relevant. Saga trigger. They now have Kappa mana. That is weapons. Weapons is fine. Draw. No Kappa. Temple. Now we could K command here. I think I'll wait though to K command. We'll draw. Saga trigger. Because right now what I worry about is Rebuke, what I worry about is Consign. So I'd rather they try and tap out and then we can K-Command from there. We'll see. There's Pinnacle Emissary, okay. Triggers weapons. And paying cost for Krang. Yep, Krang is a card. Prior to its resolution, I'm going to want to ramp and scry draw. And done. I am going to want, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can play the Devour for Krang. We probably want a second Devour. We don't need Mine. We don't need Soul Guide. Thinking Devour, Temple, Temple draw. And at this point, I will pass in full. So we can deal with the Krang. They're going to draw 4, however. They don't have a blue source up, so they shouldn't be able to consign, which is good. Because of Bobble, they can't... I guess they actually can EE. They could theoretically EE for 1. That's a Kappa. How big is Krang? 8-4? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can exile the Kappa with Devour. We'll draw. Temple. 4. 7. Devour target Kappa. Pay the ward. Yes. Kappa out. We'll pass. Krang is a 9-4, but no trample until they equip the Shadow Spear, of course. I will pass. Saga trigger. Do you make a construct? I guess you... Ooh, I did miss the fact they can go for Skateboard and tap the Devour. We still have the spawn to block, though, so I'm still feeling okay. But yeah, they can go Skateboard, tap the Devour, and that would be pretty rough. Needle, though. Interesting. Needle named Lab or named Karn? Naming Lab. Okay, so Devour's out. Sure. You can equip the Shadow Spear. The construct is a 12-12. That's a lot of... So, attacking in. I mean, we have to block here. Yep. So we're going to go down to 11. End step and draw. Tezzeret is relevant. So, okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to cast Tezzeret. If no mana was spent, we can get around Bobble. Tezzeret. Does Tezzeret resolve? If you have a consign, that would be unfortunate. I also have to note that they do have 4 munition tokens. So Tezzeret will minus. We will grab EE. And what we're going to do to play EE while getting around Bobble is by spending 1 colorless, which will not act for Sunburst. And that way we're not spending 0 mana, right? So done. EE gets around Bobble then. Tez resolves. Whenever a non-token artifact you control enters. So we have no reason to crack the EE just yet. Is there any reason to do so now is my question. Probably not. We could theoretically wait. I'm thinking maybe waiting until upkeep at least. Let's wait until upkeep. No reason to do it on our turn, I don't think. But this gets rid of the construct, it gets rid of the drones. So now we can EE, sacrifice the spawn, EE sweep. We'll take 8 from the munitions, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? They go for Tez, that's fine. So we'll only take 6 down to 5 then. Yep. Almost yield all. Alright. We'll hold. Pass and hold. I'm half tempted to crack this bauble, but we'll refrain. Pinnacle Emissary. Another one. Weapons trigger. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Casting. Is this for EE? It is for EE. That is trouble, because that is representing 4 damage from the munitions alone. Krang. Ew. Okay. So, yep, we're going to yield all. This EE now represents lethal, however. That is 6 damage from Krang, or from the munitions. So, I think I need to crack Bauble on end step to find a solution. Pinnacle Warp, we will crack the Bauble to find a solution. That's a power plant, not a solution. I think we need something like Karn at this point. We'll draw. Chalice is not the answer, we will concede. Alright. So let's go to game 3. I mean, put up a pretty good fight there, all things considered. So Gemstone out, gives us room for one more. We'll bring Ugin in. Actually, no, we'll bring second Dismember in, and we'll run it back from there. I think that makes the most sense. Unfortunately, bringing Dismember does make Page quote-unquote worse, because now we have the potential to Grandeur, discarding a Page, and finding a Dismember when we might want an All Is Dust or a K command. So a little bit clunky there. On the play for game 3, if we add a Soul Land, if I had another Tron piece, then maybe, but the hand really does nothing unless we wheel into the right card. This is better, however. We can Imprint Devour, Temple into K Command X2 on 2. We can keep Dump Lab, Reveal Devour Trigger, and find K Command Ugin Map. I mean, there's the Mine. Ugin's also tempting. Second K Command, I think, is probably the right choice, though. So we'll go K Command. And Lab. Imprint. Opponent's Tinkin. We'll pass. And hold on the off chance it's relevant. Spirebluff Canal, passing, holding up potential consign. We'll play Temple and pass. I mean, if they just draw go next turn, I might just force the consign by casting the K command. We'll see. Like, we're clearly representing K command X2. But I guess if they're just going to draw go, I'm kind of okay with it, honestly. Damping Sphere in response. Or Ramp and Scry draw. Alright, done. TKS Dust. TKS is tempting. Dust is also good, but getting there is going to be rough. But it might not be a bad idea to pocket. So we'll grab the TKS. Damp Sphere will resolve. We'll draw. Play Temple. And cast TKS. Let's take a look and see what you have, friend. There's the consign. There's weapons, EE, Closet Gix. The Closet Gix is a problem alongside the weapons, so I think I actually do want to get rid of the claws, but the EE is redundant. Yeah, that's kind of awkward on so many levels. I begin to wonder if grabbing Consign might be better. You know what? I think it might be. I'm going to grab Consign. So Consign's out. Because that way we can play the K command next turn, which I think is correct. We'll pass. Because even if they do go for the weapons plays, they're taxed each turn thanks to Damp Sphere. So it's Perfect Springs. I guess now you can play the claws. You play the bauble, trigger weapons. Sure, you get a munition. Bauble, target me. Yeah, I mean, if we find Karn, then it should more or less be GG's, I think. So yeah, I definitely agree that I think Consign was the right call. Because then they might just have played the weapons and held up the Consign mana, right? Versus now they go Bauble. Opponents taking a long time looking at this card. It makes me begin to wonder what they're seeing, and I do wonder if it is Karn, actually. That is a very real possibility right now. Because opponent's taking a long look. Alright, Bauble Trigger will always resolve. And we draw Needle. Okay, so I mean, we can then Needle Closet Gix. We can Needle EE. So I mean, that's an option. Regardless, we'll play a land, swing off a TKS. Honestly, needling EE seems appealing here. Because Claws of Gix is more mana intensive, though it does gain them life, which could be relevant. Though EE can get rid of our spawns, which is also relevant. I think maybe naming EE here might be the correct choice. They play EE0, and then they can crack it in response or after the resolution by K command, which I think would be an issue. So yeah, let's go to attacks. Swing of TKS down to 11. Needle EE, name Engineered Explosives. We hold up K command X equals 2. Again, this way EE is bricked and we shouldn't lose out on spawns. Paying cost for EE0. Sure. Triggers the weapons. Sure. I'm surprised they didn't play the weapons first, though. Oh, I see. Because now we have a Kappa. Which is fine, because we have a Dust lined up. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, I was going to Ramp and Scry draw. And done. So, I mean, at this point, if we find a land, we can clear the Kappa. I mean, there's mine power plant. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 1 at the very least. Of course, it's Damp Spheres, making it so that we can't get to Tron. I mean, I think, yeah, we just Dust, get rid of the Kappa, swing up the TKS. I suppose they can get rid of the TKS the following turn by playing Closet Gix and sacrificing the munitions tokens. But not much we can do about this. And it's not like Page Loose Leaf is going to do much off the top right now. So I think we're going to probably bottom, top draw. Kappa trigger, weapons trigger. We will pass in full. And draw. Didn't I bottom you? I feel like I bottomed you. Alright, well, we'll play the mine, and we will cast Dust. Go to combat, swing for 4, down to 6. Again, it's likely they're going to Closet Gix the TKS down. Probably go second weapons into claws. No, I guess they can't do that. They would have to go claws and not anything else. So yeah, you can sacrifice 2 munitions to hit down the TKS at this point, which would make sense to me. Yep. So getting rid of the TKS makes sense. Okay. TKS draws him a card, unfortunate as it is. We'll draw. Lab. We'll play the power plant. This does mean next turn we do have Devour, so we could devour the weapons that they play, which is relevant. Or they play like a Krang, for example. There's the weapons, so 3 unknowns in hand. Paying cost for Crypt, trigger the weapons. Sure. And we'll go to end step, return Devour to hand. We'll draw another mine. And we'll cast Devour. Exile weapons, unless you have a consign. No consign. Body its board. We'll pass and pass. A third weapons and a Crypt. Okay. So now they do have enough to get rid of the Devour. They'll have to do that next turn. We'll draw. Flesh Raker. I'm inclined not to play the Flesh Raker this turn. Well, So this is a bit weird. There's a real chance that we could kill our opponent with non-combat damage off of Raker, right? We play Raker, and then we have 4 mana left over for all intent and purpose. The issue obviously becomes Closet Gix does gain them life. And right now they need to get rid of Devour. I guess if we split their focus between Devour and Raker, maybe that is the better play. I think we do that then, yeah. Because now this splits their focus. They have to get rid of Devour because of combat damage. No matter what, that's not an option because they can't gain enough off the munitions. I guess... Okay, so they're going to go for the Raker now. Interesting. So they're confident that they can get rid of the Devour. So they must have an artifact in hand, is what I'm guessing. And if they don't, we win. Unless they have a blocker, of course. Draws a card. Okay, so that's promising, because this also means they don't have the mana required for Claws to get rid of Devour. So at this point, they either need to somehow block the Devour, or we win. Opponent scoops it up, we got there. So playing the Raker was correct. Alright, good stuff. Because it split their focus and forced them into a less than ideal position. Solid. Alright, well, we'll be back for match number 4. Alright, and we're back for match number 4 on the play for game 1. That's how I feel about this right now. I think I'm mulliganing this one. There's Page Loose Leaf, speaking of. So we could pocket Dust, play Page, Temple, K Command. Do I want to pocket Dust or Sire? Which one has more applications, I guess? I think Sire's probably the better bet, and we can always dig for dust later off of page. So we'll keep drop dust, and we will go lab, imprint, Sire, cast page, pass. Lab, imprint, cast page, and pass. And pass. Marsh Flats, fetch 19. Sacred Foundry, shock 17 for Ocelot Pride. And it's kind of cool. So this is a good example where Page Loose Leaf being a creature is relevant because now we can block the Ocelot Pride. Mind you, the Ocelot Pride does not care about dealing damage to me. It just cares about gaining life, right? That is a TKS. That does change our math. So we're going to go TKS, take a peek, and now this is an actual blocker for Ocelot Pride. Bolt, Bombardment, Pyro, Pride. I think we have to take the Bolt. Because if we don't take the Bolt, A, they can destroy Page. B, they can attack the Pride. We block the TKS. First strike damage, then Bolt. So I think we have to take the Bolt. So I will pass. No attacks. And pass. Next turn we have a K command. X equals 5. Ocelot Pride. Yep. Arid Mesa. No attacks. And draw. Power Plant. We'll play the Temple. We'll pass. No attacks. Arid Mesa, fetch, surveil, down to 16. Surveils. And go to main. Sacred Foundry, shock 14. Guide of Souls, trigger. You don't have a follow-up. You have the Bombardment, which is fine. No, I guess you could attack the trigger the Pride. But that's not really worth it, I don't think. But let's see what you do. They do not. We'll go to end step. We are going to K command here. Ramp and scry draw. X equals 5. What do we find 5 deep? Seeing a page is not bad. It gets us another crack at all is dust. So yeah, it gets us... Okay, so this is interesting. This is really interesting. We have a ton of fun stuff here. So we have a land. We don't need the gemstone, so that is out. I mean, we have Ugin primed. We have page. We have K command. I would say we want to see the page after the second K command. And we can do that by plussing Ugin. Fleshraker is fantastic. I mean, yeah, this just looks fantastic. We play Ugin. We then have access to 5 Eldrazi mana. We can play the Fleshraker. Exile another card. We have K command as well. So I'm thinking we go page top, Fleshraker top, K command top, Ugin top, and draw. And draw. So we can then go power plant, Ugin. 1, 2, 3. Ugin, exile, bombardment. Bombardment down. Ugin plus and draw. Cast Fleshraker. Ugin target guide. And phone scoops it up. We got the win. We do indeed. Alrighty. So, let's see. We want Bauble out, Soul Guide stays, Pithy Needle out, Swamp out, keep the Gemstone, Chalice can stay. We could consider a few things here. EE would make sense, and maybe Dismember as well. I think there's also some argument to cutting Tezzeret here, and bringing in Trinisphere potentially. That is a consideration as well. We also could bring in Ballista. We also could just keep the Tezzerets. That's also a consideration. The Tezzerets, though, are objectively weaker into aggro because we're not looking for the hate pieces as often. So I think I will drop the Tezzeret, bring in the Trinispheres, and run it back like this. I think that makes sense. Yeah, it goes Needle, Cage, Bobble, not doing much. Yeah, I think we're good with this. So there's another Page Loose Leaf. There's a Devour. I mean, this is kind of nice in a sense, because if we, let's say, find Devour and find a second page, nothing else really of value, we can grab the page and then dig for a K command. We can dig for a Allah's Dust, Dismember, what have you, right? So that's pretty nice. Bundle mulligan on a 6. We will keep. I mean, this is a turn 2 TKS, a turn 2 K command X2, turn 2 Flesh Raker. It's looking good. Pummeling is down to 5. We will reveal Devour and pass. Marsh Flats Fetch 19, Sacred Foundry Shock 4, Ragavan. In that case, I mean, there's a real thought to trying to find lab to play page to then block the Ragavan. There's TKS on 2. Karn would be a bit slow here, so we're gonna grab the TKS. Draw into the TKS. Temple, pass. And pass. So we're going to TKS on 2 to try and disrupt, let's say, a Charma. That'd be the concern. It also blocks the Ragavan, of course. Seeing the Sire exiled a bit rough. We would have liked this Sire in the long run. Plays Flooded Strand. Flooded Strand fetch. 16 planes. Do you have a Blood Moon? No Blood Moon, Guide of Souls. That's fine. And a Johnny. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a pretty decent start from opponent. There's a Trinisphere. A bit late, though, but could be relevant later. We're going to start with TKS. TKS sees. Wear Tear out. And we'll pass. So next turn, we're looking at Flesh Raker. Unfortunately, we can't go Flesh Raker into Page, and we can't go Page into Flesh Raker either. So this is a good example. Why are we attacking with the Ragavan? I mean, this feels like Discharge or Bolt, but I think we just have to block the Ragavan. So, yeah. Ragavan down. Really? What? Okay, sure. Weird, but sure. Ugin. Okay, well. Yeah, so this is a good example where Page being a creature is a drawback, because normally we would be able to, with a Mind Stone, play the Mind Stone, play the Temple, play the Flesh Raker to ramp, right? Because then we would have more mana next turn at our disposal. We would have access to 4-5 mana, non-Eldrazi mana. But in this instance, we don't have access to that. So we'll play the Temple, and I'm thinking we go for the Flesh Rake here. And at that point, we're just going to pass. I'm not sure if the I mean, I guess on one hand, Trinisphere does break them since they missed a land drop. That's true. I guess the question is, what is this last card in hand that they didn't play? Clearly not a land. Something that was not castable under 2 mana. Could have been a Charmaw, theoretically, if they did miss a second red source. Second of Johnny. Could have been the second of Johnny, but likely they may have drawn into that. Yeah, if we had played the Trinisphere, it would have break them on the Johnny. But I'm kind of okay with this right now. Yeah, I'm kind of okay with this right now. Here's a question. Do you attack? No, you plus. Interesting. I was not expecting that. You're attacking. Okay. You'll float. That's 5 damage. So we're gonna go down to 10. We're gonna draw. Second page. Ooh. That's interesting to me. Second page is interesting because we could Grandeur, but I want to get rid of this Johnny ASAP. So I think we need to Devour. The only issue I see long run is this cat. This cat is an issue. But we have to go after the Johnny here. So Fleshraker, Trigger, Devour goes after the Johnny. And triggers. Body hits board and triggers. Is there a world where I attack right now? I don't think so. So we're going to pass at this point. We'll pass in full. 1, 2. So we'll take 5 in the air from the cat. Down to 5. So lethal's now on board. Paying cost for bombardment. Okay. Another Devour. Okay, so Devour can get rid of the cat. We also can page into Grandeur and find an All Is Dust. That is very tempting. So let us start with that. Page is not mana neutral, is mana negative by 1, but we'll still have enough for an All Is Dust or Devour even. So we're starting with Page. We're going to trigger. Page will enter and trigger. We're then going to Grandeur, pitch Page, and we're going to go digging. Yes, this is where Page pays off. So we then get to All Is Dust. Fleshraker trigger. Bombardment. Yep, this will yield on end of turn. Alright. Dust will resolve. We'll go to combat now and swing. Opponent is almost dead. Alright, I mean, it comes down to if they have land flage, we lose, but that was worth it. That Page Grandeur into Dust was perfect. Did we get there? Paying cost, discharge. Choose not to use the counters. I should have sacrificed, but I'm confused why it'd be relevant. Opponent scoops it up, we take the win. Woo! That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right. I mean, that is a good example of what Page can do in the best case scenario. Of course, like the medium case scenario there would have been that we would have found, let's say, a K command. The worst case scenario, since we did bring it in, would have been Dismember. We did bring in Dismember, right? Honestly, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have. But that is a good example of what Page can theoretically do. So it seems interesting. I just am not certainly better than Mind Stone, but that's why we're playing it, so that we can gather data to say definitively, is it better than Mind Stone? My initial hypothesis or theory is no, but the data will come back to us once we get enough data and give us a better picture. With that being said, though, we'll be back for match number 5. Alright, and we're back for match number 5 on the play for game 1. Weird hand, honestly. Really weird hand. I mean, the map acts as a second land no matter what. So we could have a turn 2 TKS, turn 2 Tezzeret, maybe a turn 2 Karn. Yeah, we can make it work. We'll keep. Reveals Devour, so it could be a mirror. We'll lab, imprint Dust, cast map, and pass. And pass. So off the XL, we'll get a better picture of what we're playing against. We were playing against E Ramp. Okay. So that's Bolt. Lab, imprint, Talisman, draw, Ugin. Okay, so this is a turn 3 Karn. Not great, but it will work. Lab, imprint, Ugin, and pass. Yes, Butter? Yeah? Is that so? He has words. Yeah, you do. You're very talkative. Is this a... If this is a Myco into Ghost Quarter, we're in a bit of trouble. Yeah, Myco Ghost Quarter puts us behind. Ooh. Okay, so this is Odin's List with Karn. Okay, interesting. So it's a Karn showdown then. Karn plussing. I mean, I think we just have to play Karn here. So Karn. Alternatively, we actually could have Tezzeret needle name Karn. That was also an option, funny enough. Trying to think here. Honestly, I actually may have been inclined to do that now that I'm kind of rethinking, but this does short them on mana on the Talisman, I suppose. Keep in mind that Karn can plus on Talisman. I do wonder if we go Bridge, potentially. Regardless, we're going to plus Karn here. Let's plus Karn. Let's get that out of the way. Let's pass. And pass. So now the Karn showdown. But I have more mana. Yep, pluses on the Talisman. That makes sense. You'll swing at the Karn. That makes sense. Yep. We have a blocker next turn in the way of TKS. Opponent passes. This could be a K command. Bobble, not too pressed. Again, we can Karn minus. But I think we start with TKS and get a picture of what we're dealing with. TKS enters. Myco spawn Ice Till Ugin. They really wanted to go for the Myco kick. I think they should have went for the Myco to Ghost Quarter and cut me short, but they were a bit greedy. So I will grab the Myco without a doubt. Myco out. Is there a benefit to playing the Bauble right now? Not really. I guess we could play Bauble plus it with Karn. Yeah, we can do that. Plus Karn. Adds another blocker, right? So they'll fetch Surveil. They did not fetch Surveil. Why do you not fetch Surveil? Interesting. There's the Temple. So one unknown. Karn plus, sure. So now I have a blocker. Again, I'm really tempted here just to go for a needle named Karn. Sprawl, okay. 2, 4, 6. One short Ugin, but since they have green, that is ice still. We'll draw map. Map is unfortunately offline. I mean, we can TKS here, grab ice still, I think is the right move. So we're gonna go to combat. We're gonna swing at Karn. Let's start there. Do you want to block? You do not want to block. I will cast TKS. TKS will grab the Ice Till. And we will Karn plus on Bobble. I'll then play Map. And we'll pass. And pass. Karn plus. 1 unknown. K command, X equals 4. X equals 6. Oh, Devour. Okay, yep, makes sense. Cut them short on the Ugin, though. We'll draw. Tower. So we have access to 6 mana. We have access to 6. I mean, we could go bridge. That is an option. Karn minus Tezzeret bridge. Yeah, that might be the best course of action. I think so. So let's go minus. Yes. Grab bridge. Cast bridge. Cast. Oh, I should have cast Tezzeret first. Missequence there. I will untap the bridge. Alright, so we'll untap the bobble. We'll pass. Yeah, should have sequenced that differently with the Tezzeret. What is this? K command X4. Holding up a green source for a potential Myco kick. Okay. The thing is now they need to get from underneath bridge before they can really do much else. So the question is whether or not they play, let's say, World Breaker. 2 top, 2 bottom, draw, Temple. Looks like they might be angling for the Ugin. Plus on the Talisman, that's fine. Still can't attack. We'll draw. Well, we drew into the Pithy Needle. I mean, honestly, I think I'm just going to go Needle. Do I name... I actually should have... I missequenced that, I think. I wanted to grab Flute. I should have named Karn. We'll name Ugin. Eye of the Storms. Trigger. Definitely missequencing. We're going to minus. Yes. And grab Flute. We're going to cast Flute. Flute name Karn the Great Creator. Yeah, no, I think I should have done that backwards, basically. That was a misplay on my part. Because we should have first went Karn minus for Flute, then Needle name Karn, Flute hold up in case they cast Ugin, and then we could Flute Ugin in response, basically time locking them. That would have made a lot more sense than what we did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, this is Emrakul, I'd imagine. Maybe not. Maybe a K command again. X equals 10. So again, the question becomes whether or not you play Worldbreaker. If you don't play Worldbreaker, I don't know if you have a way from under bridge. I will say the missequence on the bridge is costing us because we could have otherwise Tezzeret -7 next turn, or at the last turn, and started making constructs, which would have been relevant. So 4 top, 6 bottom, draw. Sure. Is it kicked Maiko? No. What is this? An Emrakul? That's fine. I genuinely don't think you can really do much here. You can play Page Loose Leaf. I guess you can Tez minus. Yeah, that's fine. You can fail to find. Otherwise, I suppose you can grab EE. You can grab. No, I guess no. EE isn't main, is it? Fails to find. Lab returns Ugin. That's fine. All is dust return. That's fine. Yep, that's okay. Doesn't do too much in the grand scheme because again we're just kind of at this stalemate until you find a way to deal with bridge. And while Page cannot tap for mana, Page can find me K command, right? So we'll play Page. And no reason to Tezzeret minus. But we can, and here's the fun part, we can make Page bigger. So Page is now a 1/3. So that is a nice little synergy between Page and Tezzeret. We can now make Page big. If nothing else, we can do that every single turn. Okay, another K command it looks like. Is the third K command. Yep, X equals 7. I mean, again, the question just becomes, do you have an out to bridge? And if the answer is no, we're just waiting until I get to Fleshraker and start chipping away at your life total. 1 top, 6 bottom, draw. Is this breaker? If it's breaker, you more or less have the win. It's a Myco spawn. It's not a breaker. So that is fine. So Myco spawn will hit tower. And maybe grab a Ghost Quarter. Maybe to try and... Okay, yep, makes sense. Maybe try and deplete my resources. So now they could go Ghost Quarter to... They actually have some options here. Second Karn's not doing much. But it is our best interest to play it regardless. So we will play Karn. Oh, Karn can't because we missed sequence. Normally we would, but we cannot. Yeah, if I had sequenced that correctly by ensuring that we were going to... I guess no, yeah, we were initially going to Karn minus Flute, play Needle, name Karn, Flute, name Ugin. I mean, at this point, we're gonna just have to pass. We theoretically could attack with the Page, but we're not doing much here right now. We'll pass. Plays the Verdant Cat. So now if they do have... What is this? Ugin's fine. Ugin's not doing anything. It's just on the board for support, I suppose. Why tap the Ghost Quarter there? I'm curious on that. I guess maybe just holding it? I suppose. End step, draw, power plant, play power plant, Tezzeret, 0 on Page. And we'll pass. Page getting big. If nothing else, Page is going to get big. How many turns can we go before Page becomes bigger than Emrakul? Only time will tell. There's Rumble. Rumble finds Myco spawn, Cavern of Souls Karn. I imagine they grab the Myco here. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Yep. And then they'll kick the Myco. Yeah, if at any point they Ghost Quarter prior to finding Ice Till, we can grab Soul Guide Lantern off of Tezzeret and get rid of the Ghost Quarter. It does seem, though, that opponent does not have access to World Breaker. I would be willing to say. I feel like at this point they would have had it. We'll draw. Well, there's our swamp, which means this Ghost Quarter is a strip mine. Unfortunate timing for me. Yeah, I mean, that's just going to resolve. I'm going to say, you know what, we'll shuffle. Let me take a look here real quick. We get to look at our deck, right? We see, looks like Internet had a moment there, but is back. Yeah, so we have the Soul Guide left. We have Chalice, of course. Flesh Rakers. Yeah, so I guess we're just chilling. Yep, so we fail to find. And a Swamp. And a Tez target. And we pass. And we pass. We draw. Okay, I guess I should have actually Tez minus for Soul Guide. Soul Guide. Target Ghost Quarter. Resolve. Lab. Lab Imprint Dust. And pass. And pass. So, yeah, without Emrakul, I don't know if opponent can get there. We'll draw. There's map. We can play map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Map, trigger, Tezzeret 0 on Page. Page is now a 5/7. Page getting big. Page is getting big. We'll pass. Forest, passing. Fun Games of Magic. Ugin. Tez 0, target Page. And pass. And pass. And draw. Lab. Play lab. I suppose we can imprint. 3, 5, 7. Ugin. Ugin targets Sprawl. Yield. And Tezzeret 0, target Page. And pass. And pass. Paying cost 4. Is Ice Till? I mean, it doesn't do anything now. So, like, you can Ice Till. That's fine. But your Ghost Quarter's gone. Unless you play 2. And again, your only option is World Breaker. But I'm pretty sure you would have found Breaker by now. So I'm fairly certain you will lose via attrition. Like, there's just a war of attrition here. Okay, so we can actually Grandeur here. Oh, it's an activated ability. We can't. Damn. Yep. 0 Page. I suppose I can just play the Page then, just to increase Tez and also get rid of Ice Till. Choose loose leaf to keep. We want the big one. Thank you very much. Tez already passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll pass. Like I said, I don't think opponent has a way out. Lab. Sure. We'll draw. Flesh Raker. There's the Flesh Raker. So, Tez on page. We do get a little bit worried at times like this about whatchamacallit, Emrakul, but there is the flesh. Yield all. And pass. Honestly, there might be an argument for me to minus Tez. Just so that way they can't get to Emrakul and plus. That's rude. That's a K returns. That'll sweep the Flesh Rake. That's fine. We'll pass. Land. Yeah, so I actually should minus Tez fail to find, actually. There is mine. That is 7 for Karn. Ugin, no targets, sealed all. I guess Karn can't even plus. That's right, Karn's locked too. Yeah, actually, we just keep on zeroing then. Page of the 10, 12. And we'll pass. Talisman, sure. We'll draw. Ugin. Target. Ugin. Ugin. And Ugin. Healed all. Doesn't matter. We'll pass. And pass. I mean, you're going to mill out before me as well, so this really is just Drago on page and pass. Paying cost for Rumble. Rumble finds... Oh, you found a breaker. That is problem. So you did have a breaker, but geez, that... So why did you... You have a Sanctum of Ugin. I'm very confused. You could have devoured at any point for the Sanctum. Weird. So, yep, hits the bridge. Sweeps of K return. Yep, this will yield all. You'll draw 2 off the TKS. Yeah, weird that they didn't go for the Sanctum earlier. So bridge is out, and I can't grab it back with Karn. Go to combat. You'll swing with Emrakul. Yep. At Karn. Why at Karn? Sure. That is fine. I am confused, but that is fine. Karn is down. You have 9 cards left in deck. We've seen 2 Emrakuls. Do you have a third? You do have a third. So that will yield all. End step. K command. Ramp and scry draw. I guess actually ramping doesn't do much here. So scry draw, exile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can exile the breaker, which is relevant. And breaker down. Ugin target, no targets. Yield all. So now we can stack our deck. Page still not doing much here. Honestly, I might just give them... So Dust, no. Devour, no. Devour, no. Temple, no. We're still off of Tron, so no there. Page, no. And we can Temple. Oh, I guess I should have... Yeah, I should have done that differently. I should have stacked that so that way they drew into a blank. So Karn's fine. They're not going to play the Karn. Lab return, sure. Lab return, sure. I guess you can now crash the page into Emrakul. Actually, no, you can't. Well, I guess you can double block. You can double block. That is true. Chalice for what? I guess you could go 3. Why 1? 1 doesn't make sense. 3 would make sense because that would mean no Flesh Raker. Tez will trigger. Yeah, 1 doesn't make sense here. Combat. And then double block. Yep. That makes sense to me. Unfortunately, the page was just a little bit short. I mean, I don't foresee a way for us to recover here. We'll draw. Mine. I mean, this is 19 damage down to 1. Yeah, I'm not seeing an out. I do not see an out here. We'll play the Temple and pass. And pass? Question? I guess we could have played the Karn just to break their talismans. Not that I think that matters. At me, down to 1. We do not have an Ulamog. Maybe an Ulamog would be correct. Sire does not make the cut, unfortunately, so we will concede. So, funny enough, actually, if we had sequenced correctly for Tezzeret, we would have had a huge board of constructs once the bridge was gone. So that was a little bit unfortunate. So with that missequence, it did cost us. So Gemstone out. Vexing Bubble, not as necessary. Chalice, not as necessary. Soul Guide, yes. Pithing Needle, yes. Flutes would make sense. And... debating between Leveler or, let's say, a Ballista. Maybe Leveler. Yeah, I'm thinking Leveler would make sense here. And run it back like this. On the play for game 2. Yeah, I'll keep it. Reveals Devour. Play the Mine and pass. And pass. Finds. Okay. We'll draw Power Plant. We'll play the Power Plant and hold the Flute. So now we have 4 hits for Tron on 3. Surveil. Ugin to Yard. Okay. Ghost Quarter, kind of rude. And we could Ghost Quarter here, but they'll likely just Ghost... Or let's say, we could Flute here named Ghost Quarter, but they'll likely just... Honestly, it still might not be a bad idea to do now. Does it matter? It really doesn't. We'll pass. Draw. K command. Ghost Quarter. Float. You 50-50'd correctly. We grab the swamp. Phase change. Temple. Let's apply pressure in the way of TKS. I mean, immediately the Myco spawn needs to go, because next turn they Temple Rumble, set up for the Myco spawn, so we will take the Myco spawn. And we'll pass. Depending on what we see off the Rumble, we might need to TKS at the Emrakul. Lab, Imprint, Devour, Rumble. Yep. Seize, Karn, Temple, Sanctum, Stomp. I imagine they take the Temple here, but maybe the Karn. We can Time Walk them. Choose the Temple. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're still short, though, on Emrakul. There's Tezzeret. So we can go Tezzeret, actually, and go Soul Guide Lantern. That is also a consideration. Let's start by going to combat. Swing. I will play the Power Plant. Soul Guide Lantern is very tempting. But also we could just TKS and rip the Emrakul. TKS ripping the Emrakul is also very tempting. They also could draw directly into a Myco spawn, though, and that would be a bit unfortunate. I think I will TKS, though. So there's Rumble, Emrakul. I'm thinking that Emrakul is probably the correct choice here. But again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know what? No, we'll take the Rumble. Alright. Because, yeah, again, we can Tezzeret into Soul Guide and just clear the yard. Temple. Passing. We draw. Map. So let's go to combat to start. Down to 8. Lethal's on board. How can we sequence this? I mean, we can go Tezzeret. Yeah, I think we just go Tezzeret to Soul Guide. Tezzeret minus Soul Guide cast Soul Guide target. I mean, it's either Ugin or Karn. They should have probably like 5 planeswalkers, but probably only like 4 sorceries. So in that case, I guess we can take the Rumble, and that'll probably be worth it, since it'll be hard for them to get a sorcery in yard at this point. So we'll go Rumble. Heal all. So that is 2 types in yard. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3 short. We'll pass. And hold. And they play the Temple. If nothing else, we can get rid of the spawn with a K command and present lethal. Alright. End step draw. Sire. I will cast Map. Trigger. Crack Map. Temple. Play Temple. K command, Scry Draw Exile. I guess actually, no, I'm gonna Ramp Exile. Ramp Exile. And done. Because this means we now have access to Flute, and once we it up, we'll take the win. Okay. So I want Gemstone back in, and we're probably good to trim an Allah's Dust. Honestly, I could see trimming another Allah's Dust, but I kind of want to keep the Extinguisher Battleship in the side, so I think we just run it back like this then. Like, I really want to keep this, don't get me wrong. A single land lets us go to Fleshraker on 2, and then just start kind of chaining off for non-combat damage. But if we whiff, we're in trouble. So we dig too deep. Opponent kept an opening 7 as well. Makes me a bit concerned. I think we'll mulligan. I don't know. That one's a bit risky, I think. I will keep this one. There's the Devour. We'll pass. Like, we had 20 hits, 2 draws. It's very tempting. The thing is, if we whiff, we do nothing. Whereas this, at least, if we whiff on the Tron land, then we do have the K command, right? We'll draw. Second Temple, so we'll go Temple and pass. So now we're presenting K command X2 on 2. We'll hold on the off chance they go Myco Ghost Quarter, but no Myco Ghost Quarter. Playing Talisman. Talisman resolves. And we'll draw. Fleshraker. Normally I do want to play the Fleshraker prior to the K commands, but I think it makes more sense to play the K command prior to the Fleshraker in this context. We'll fetch Surveil. Makes sense to me. The worst case scenario here is a soul land into Myco Spawn Kick. That would be, by and large, the worst case scenario. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad for us. There's the Myco. Myco Kick. Hit the Temple. Will float. You have a Ghost Quarter on top of which? You do. Yep. Not much we can do about that. Myco resolves. What you doing there, bud? Before the phase change, we do need a K command. We'll ramp and scry draw. And done. Temple, Gemstone. We'll grab the Temple. And pass. Draw. Ghost Quarter, we can float. The question is whether or not I should K command here. We could K command X equals 1, ramp and exile the Ghost Quarter. We are running short on time, so I do need to process my plays here a bit faster. I'm going to ramp and exile cards in yard, ramp, exile, just to keep you off of the Ghost Quarter loop. I'll play Temple to Fleshraker and pass. No attacks. And pass. Bolt. Unfortunate. Karn. Karn does look to potentially lock this up. There's the Liquid Metal. Attack for 3, down to 17. I mean, if I don't find a way to interact with Karn or Liquid Metal here, we lose. Mine is not the answer, unfortunately. We can play the tower and pass. We're not out yet, but it ain't looking good. Put it that way. There's the coding. Coding target Temple. Makes sense to me. Plus with Karn. Yep. Attack for 3, down to 14. And end step draw. Leveler. We can play the tower, pass. No reason to expose the power plant and mine, which we don't have duplicates of. Do you have a K command here? You do. K command X2, ramp and scry draw. Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, this does appear to be a loss. I do not foresee us coming back from this. Because even if we were to find Karn, we can Karn plus break the liquid metal, but they have enough resources here where I just don't think it's going to matter. Myco Connect down to 11. End step draw. Flesh Raker. We can play the Flesh Raker. There's Flesh and pass. And it's not nothing, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I mean, they could very well A, K command, but B, extinguish a battleship and destroy a land, clear my board, and that would pretty much just set me out outright. We'll pass. I guess it also depends whether or not they play the battleship, but regardless, it's not looking good. Down to 8. And draw. Ugin ain't making the cut. Yeah, we'll concede out. We're good. Unfortunate. I definitely think we could have or had the potential to win the game 1 that we lost. If I had sequenced correctly for the Tezzeret, we would have been able to make a lot of constructs, making them destroying the bridge a lot worse. So that is a bit unfortunate. We had a strong game 2, and then just petered out in game 3. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. But that will be the end of today's league with a 3-2 record at the end of 5. Initial take on Page is mixed, right? On one hand, it is a body on board. On the other hand, it also can be increased in size with Tezzeret, which is very appealing actually. And at its floor, it can be a K command or an Allah's Dust. And at its ceiling, it can be the exact card you want, which we saw like in Energy, for example. But it definitely is a bit mixed. We definitely saw some moments where Page having Summoning Sickness was relevant. So definitely will need some additional testing to get all the data necessary to get to that point to figuring out, is Page better than Mind Stone? And the answer right now is an inconclusive maybe, right? The bottom line is I'll need to cast it at least 30 times pre-game or game 1 or pre-board in order to get definitive data set just for the initial analysis. That's not even including looking at like matchup specific data. But with that being said, we'll be playing some Tron until we get enough data to come to a reasonable conclusion and then go from there. But with that being said, as always, if you did enjoy today's YouTube video, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Well, hitting the like button first, but also subscribe. Comment down below if you did see any lines that I missed, any mistakes that I made, or any general feedback. Be much appreciated. For as much that I hope you'll learn from me in both my success and failure, I hope I can learn from you all as well. If you have reached the point of the video and haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button as we continue to grow this channel. However, if you would like to watch these videos recorded live over on Twitch, I recommend following me over on my socials or joining my community Discord server. Otherwise, you can find these videos ad-free and early over my Patreon. With that being said though, folks, I will see you next time. Bye-bye!